Hi, I am Jen Lee with Jen Lee Law, and today I want to talk about what's so special about Chapter 13. Whenever I mention Chapter 13, I get these looks of horror, and clients, people listening to talks that I give, I'm talking about financial stress, they think that Chapter 13 is the worst route to go down. So, Chapter 13 is a repayment plan of 3 to 5 years. Many seem to think it's the end of the world. And I decided to do this quick video, and there'll be a follow-up blog post about how powerful Chapter 13 really can be in the right situation. So the first misconception I get out there all the time is that why should I declare bankruptcy if I have to pay it all back? People think that coming into Chapter 13 means they pay everything back. And that's actually not true for most people. It may be true if you have a ton of equity in your house or you have a lot of assets available, but often Chapter 13 results in actually 0% being paid to your credit cards and unsecured creditors. And the power of Chapter 13 comes in the fact that you can restructure your debts to pay back the ones that are required, like taxes, mortgage arrears, things like that, and relieve the pressure of having minimum payments on your credit cards, which can sometimes be pretty hefty, and restructure what you have so that you come out of the payment plan in 3 to 5 years with a fresh start. So not only are you not paying everything back, but what you do pay back counts towards what you need it to count for. For example, with taxes, if you pay back all of your priority taxes during your Chapter 13, your penalties are discharged. So that can be pretty powerful when you're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. So the second question I often get from people is, isn't debt settlement a better option than Chapter 13? Then I don't have to go through bankruptcy. And yeah, debt settlement is a better option for the debt settlement companies. I always explain to clients that Chapter 13 is debt settlement, but it's with a court order. So you can't be sued while you're in Chapter 13. You can't be served with papers. You can't have your wages garnished. When you're in a debt settlement program, you will be sued, and you could have your wages garnished and your bank accounts levied while you're in this debt settlement program. In the meantime, your credit score is tanking. While in Chapter 13, you can often rebuild while you're in Chapter 13. You have to make sure that creditors are getting what they're legally entitled to under the bankruptcy law, but again, often that can be 0% or 5% or 10% of what they're owed versus debt settlement where you're paying back 50 to 75% of what you owe. So usually debt settlement is not the better option. It can be. There are situations where debt settlement works better than a Chapter 13, but overall, Chapter 13 is debt settlement with the court order. Then I hear all the time, but my credit is ruined for 10 years and I can't buy a house for 10 years. Wrong. You can actually buy a house while you're in Chapter 13. 1 year into your Chapter 13 plan, you are eligible for an FHA mortgage if you've made all of your Chapter 13 payments on time to the court. So you have a 700 credit score, you can buy a new house, you're out of debt in 5 years. That's a horrible deal, isn't it? If I told you in five years from now, you could be debt-free, you could have a new house, and you could have a 700 or higher credit score, would you come back to me and say, that's a horrible deal, I never want to do that? That's what Chapter 13 is. Not that Chapter 13 is all fun and games, but it's a viable tool for getting a fresh start, clearing debt, and restructuring. Finally, I often hear from people that aren't the only people filing for Chapter 13 bad with finances. Nope. One of the analogies I often use is that rich, successful business owners, they don't have a problem using the laws to their advantage. They don't get told they're using a loophole if they do tax planning, estate planning, and yes, even bankruptcy and bankruptcy planning are often used by big companies, small companies, individuals who are using the law to their advantage. However, there seems to be this idea or the stigma in middle class and sometimes lower middle class to upper middle class that using the laws to our advantage is somehow taboo and even unethical. And I don't get it. Whether you're bad at finances or not, understanding the rights and options that are available to you is a smart move. Please note that I am not encouraging people to run out and file bankruptcy, but I am encouraging you to know what your rights and options are and think about how you can best take advantage of your situation to make your life better. Because honestly, no one's looking out for you more than yourself. And being homeless and having financial stress causing bigger problems in your life is probably not the way to get back on track. So This whole video and the blog post is slightly tongue-in-cheek. I find that there's a lot of misinformation out there with Chapter 13, what it can do, why it's often a good thing. I tend to get a bit sarcastic. However, while Chapter 13 isn't always a fun idea, it can often be life-saving, marriage-saving, and the fresh start that people need to move forward. So, Chapter 13 is not the end of the world. I'm Jen Lee with Jen Lee Law. Thanks.